Okay, welcome everybody to the December meeting of the Capital Program Oversight Committee. Do we have any public comment, public speakers?
No public speakers.
Okay, could I have a motion to approve the minutes? Second? All those in favor? So moved. Do we have any updates or further information regarding the committee work plan, Mr. Stewart?
Yes, there is. MTA Capital Construction will be presenting updates on Fulton and the 2nd Avenue subway here at today's meeting. The CPOC work plan indicates that MTA Capital Construction will return in January, at which time they will provide presentations on East Side access and the extension of the number 7 line. As a result, Long Island Railroad's presentation on East Side access readiness has been rescheduled from this month to January as well. This move was made in a large part to provide adequate time for today's agenda, which includes not only 2 MTA Capital Construction presentations, but also 2 New York City Transit presentations. We have further modified the work plan to link annual rolling stock presentations from Metro North and Long Island Railroad, allowing for MTA-wide all-vehicle presentations at that time.
Any discussion? Okay. First item on the agenda, Capital Construction Company.
Okay. Fulton Center, as we stand, is on schedule to open on 2014 June, and we are trending under the $1.4 billion budget. The highlights of the progress is that we have 4 of the 5 elevators and 2 escalators on the AC mezzanine at this point in service. And we expect by the end of the month to have an additional elevator. So the beneficial use for the AC mezzanine base contract was delayed from October of this year. It will be completed in December. The Fulton building interior and exterior donut glass has been installed, and during the next 90 days we will have additional security scope that will be added to the AC mezzanine. The change order negotiated must be completed by 2013 in order for us to be able to use the GOs that start in the first quarter of 2014. So the target is in the next 2 weeks to complete the negotiations. We forecast the completion date of the project due to that to be 2014, although the benefit use as the project was intended will happen in June of 2014. Regarding our cost and schedule performance, we, in terms of the total project cost, the planned amount is the one that was planned for the total of $1.4 billion. Since at this point we are trending below it, and we expect to keep it that way. The third-party construction is slightly more, but we have been able to have on the soft cost part significant reductions. The cost and schedule contingency status shows that at this point, in terms of time contingency, we have burned about half of it, while the remaining construction about 13%. So we have still 91 days of contingency at this point. As far as budget goes, the current budget contingency is $36 million. There was a decrease of $1 million from last month. Some of the critical milestones, a master leasee, and this was something that was just voted for the Finance Committee, so we can now remove that as a critical activity. We continue to do our testing and commissioning, and that again, it's critical that we do it right. We have a detailed testing and commissioning schedule that has been developed by New York City Transit staff and our staff, and we're meeting regularly, and At this point, we're looking at opportunities for acceleration on the Fulton building contractor, and we're working with them to accelerate somewhat. We want to create additional contingency time to the extent possible. That's as much as I can say about Fulton.
IEC project review of Fulton Street?
You want me to click for you? Oh, you
I
did.
don't know. That's a deal I'll have to think about, Michael. In our review of the
We'll charge you
project,
for it.
I'm afraid of that, but I'll get a volume discount, I'm sure. In our review of the schedule and budget for the committee, we note the project schedule has slipped some 75 days since our report in September. The contingency remains. It's a concern for us as to whether it's enough for managing any further delays to communications, the fire alarm, police radio, and other essential systems for the building's operation. We feel substantial improvements needed in the testing and commissioning process to assure the June opening. Project is on budget. Our assessment of the cost contingency really is depending on a late change to the design, which is going to put in some digital sign network for the master leasee. We're looking for a hard estimate on that and its implications before we can comment definitively on contingency. Our recommendation deals with that change. We agree with the project's effort to fast track it, the design and installation of this network in parallel with its remaining construction work over the next few months. This change could force some revisions to lighting, security, and smoke management. And certainly we would agree with the project that the installation should be finished before the opening ceremony in June. Regarding our recommendations, we have a couple open that deal with contract completion process and assuring that there's sufficient staff and force available to execute the testing and commissioning plan that we mentioned earlier was under threat.
Okay, Second Avenue. We are on schedule to meet the December 2016 revenue survey date and on budget. The progress to date, all concrete walls and arches at 72nd Street are complete. Completed restoration of gas and steam at 72nd Street. And at 86th Street, the blasting has been completed, that being actually the last blasting for Second Avenue project overall. The we closed out the contract one, the TBM tunneling, achieved substantial completion of the 96th Street heavy construction, and started the mezzanine work for the 72nd Street finishes and system contract. We have now almost completed the removal of the mock house at 69th Street, and that will be completed in the next week or so. 90-day look ahead, we have additional gas work and structural steel underpinning at entrance 1 at 63rd Street, and we expect to achieve substantial completion of the 72nd Street heavy civil construction. We're right now at 97.6% completion, and start fabrication of facility power equipment at 96th Street. The arch concreting at 86th Street actually will start shortly as well. In terms of cost and schedule performance, the overall cost again is way below planned because again we are recipients of very good bids and we have a lot of money in contingency. So both under both construction as well as overall, when you look at the plan vis-a-vis construction, you'll see that we are below it. We're not below it because we're not making the burn rate. We're below it because we're going to burn less money. When we look at the schedule, You could see that the contingency has been up and down for a while, and now is on the upswing. At this point, we have 102 days of contingency, about 55% of the contingency, with about 43% of the time, and we're working right now to add another 120 days scheduled contingency, working with the system contractors. That will give us a little better a cushion of time in terms of contingency for completion. Regarding the dollars, the current budgeted contingency is $312 million left. That is about 97% of the contingency, with 43% of the contract basically remaining to be constructed. The various critical milestone and issues at 86th Street Station, entrance 2 scheduled delay. This was the Yorkshire Towers. We had some touch and go there, but we were able to mitigate it. We are working together with a local law 11 that were interfering with our creation of a cavern below. Long and short, that was finished, overcome, and we are working now with the contractor to see if we can mitigate the delays that created. But the work itself has been done by now. When you look at 69th Street, this is entrance number 1 on 72nd Street Station. This is, we had a long-standing issue with 301 East 69th Street, the building owners. We are now at the point that we have had extensive negotiations. I was told that we are signing the agreement today. So, so that again is that particular thing is going away. So we can now proceed with the construction. This is the 63rd Street Lexington Avenue Station. This area is primarily for concern to us because the turnover of systems from the civil to the systems did not occur on a timely basis. Our contractor was late in delivering, we are at this point, in fact, creating an alternative plan, and we're working to mitigate that. And luckily, at this point, this is not on the critical path, so that helps. But we are working to mitigate, even though it's not on the critical path. The biggest thing here is the impact of the Buy America non-availability waiver. We have applied for one, and the feds have basically looked at it, and they are now publishing it into the Federal Register. Nevertheless, this is a rather slow process. Our critical path show November 26th as the date that we wanted to start construction. We're not able to do so. We have, in fact, sent a letter to FTA requesting the Buy American non-availability waiver. At this point, also, what we have done is we have sent a letter to them saying that unless we hear from them by December 9th, we are willing to take to start the construction at our own risk. Basically, we started at December 9th. We have lost in the process about 12 work days, but we expect that somehow to make it back on time, and we do expect to get the waiver in place. So we believe that at this point we have dealt with this, but we're still waiting about the non-availability waiver to be in place. The station facility power is always here. We've learned from our number 7 project that Con Ed's power is always a challenging thing to achieve and to get, and we are now trying very hard to make sure that will happen on a timely basis. We again need it by September 2014, so we are going to expediting the design, shop drawings, and it's a whole process that we are utilizing to make sure that there is a timely reply from Con Ed. But we keep that as a potential issue that we would like to kind of focus on to make sure that it does not turn red. That's about it.
Yes, in our review of this project for the committee, we agree the project's on schedule. We do share the project's concern that additional cushion in the schedule contingency is needed. We see three things prominently pointing to that. One, the federal waiver that Michael just talked about. Second, the likely delay to the provision of permanent power to the stations. And third, the extended duration of the systems contract itself, something that was brought out in our risk assessment of that contract, still remains unmitigated. Project is on budget. We feel the cost contingency is consistent with the remaining risks. We do want to bring to the committee's attention what we feel is a notable success with the 72nd Street Station mining and lining contract. This will be completed shortly. It's under budget by about $18 million at our last look, and it's within a couple months of its original schedule. This in spite of the blasting event we all experienced last August, Superstorm Sandy, with a delay in materials to the project, which shut the project down for a few days, and a continuing challenge dealing with community concerns over air quality, noise, and vibration. So we felt that in spite of those things, the project's construction management team has done an excellent job in bringing the project home, and Capital's own community outreach program, I think, also deserves some credit for this success. Looking to our recommendations, the only thing remaining deals with the turnover process that was talked about a little bit earlier. We brought this concern to the committee before with the execution of turnovers from the Finnish contractors who were building rooms and putting in doors and floors and lights, to the systems contractor, which is equipping those rooms with the gear that's necessary to make the railroad run. The project stumbled a couple times with initial turnovers at 63rd Street. These things are important for the success and for the revenue service date forecast, and we've given a couple recommendations for improving that process. This is something we'll be looking at closely in the next few months to see what improvements can be made.
Any comments or questions on either project?
Is that the only part where that, on the federal waiver for that piece of equipment, for that track, is that the only place where that same track is going to be used? Or is it going to be used in
No,
any other
I
places?
believe that's the standard now that the Transit Authority uses for low vibration
Yes,
track.
but
Isn't that right,
I
Carmen?
think, I'm sorry, I think that we'll be using low vibration tracks also for east side access. However, it is somewhat different. So we believe that by the time we'll need the thing for east side access, we'll be able to comply with Buy America. If that was your question.
Well, no, well, that was part of the question. The other part of the question was, you're using it in this project at 96th Street. That's what it says.
We're using it for the whole Second Avenue.
Okay, that's what
we just
okay.
made the delivery at 96th Street. We started at 96th Street, but
Right.
this is the same exact product that has been used for the number 7 line.
So you're asking for the same waiver for the entire project, for that piece of equipment?
Yeah, it was
Okay.
not just for 96th Street. It's just for the. I'm sorry.
That's how I thought. It read at 96th Street.
I'm
so I
sorry.
didn't know
No,
whether
we're
that you made
starting
that
at
one or not.
96th Street.
Okay,
So yeah,
fine,
no.
okay. Okay.
Michael, what's a low vibration track?
It's exactly what it is. It's a track that does not vibrate
I'll go
much.
to-
If you, is this direct fixation, by the way? Okay, it's direct fixation. So you have a concrete invert on the bottom,
Okay.
and then you have basically areas where the fastening of the sub base underneath the rail is. So you go through a series of different types of material, some of which are polymer based and others are rubber based. And so what you're trying to do is isolate the vibration that occurs between the wheel and the rail from going through to the concrete structure, which then gets transmitted through the ground to buildings alongside the right-of-way.
So it's between the rail
It's
and
between the base of the
tie.
rail, it's between the base of the rail and the concrete invert. Do I have that right, Fred?
Invert or tie?
Yeah, you do.
Tie.
Yeah. Big.
So where it touches the tie and the rail, that's
Carl, there is a neoprene base, and that sits in a basically in a rubber boot,
okay.
and is exactly what Tom said. When the rail,
Sets right in it.
that's right. So the
Okay,
rail
that's good.
transmits the vibration to that's absorbed. It's like a shock
got it.
absorber in a way.
I got it, I just never.
We
Well,
moved to low vibration track, maybe different designs in different parts of the system, but when we
Yeah.
did the major track rehabilitation program in the 80s,
Okay.
elevated structure in the subway. You want anything, Fred?
We started using the resilient plates back in the 80s, which gave us that first
Yeah, I've seen
space
that.
in between the bottom of the rail and the tie, whether the tie was wood or concrete.
Right.
Now we've gone further where we put the concrete tie block into a rubber boot, so you have the second means of reducing vibration. And we've done that in all our out-of-face, where we've taken tracks completely out of service to do reconstruction. So we have some elsewhere on transit, in addition to now the new construction that's going on at 2nd Avenue.
Got it, thank you.
and East Side Access.
Okay, I think we're ready for the next presentation, which is New York City Transit. Thank you. Okay, if you could introduce yourself and start with the presentation.
Good afternoon, I'm John O'Grady. I'm Program Executive for Sandy Recovery and Resiliency for CPM, New York City Transit. As we look at this slide, the first slide here, we see that there's a station signage here on the top that, sorry, the first slide, I apologize. We see that the station signage calls for entrance to the South Ferry Station as well as the Whitehall Street Station. And you'll also notice that there's a gentleman trying to carry his travel bag up the 3 steps. So this highlights 2 issues with the South Ferry Station. It highlights the fact that initially it was designed for a 100-year storm. That's the 3 steps up. So this station actually was designed to prevent flooding. Furthermore, it was designed to incorporate a connection to the Whitehall Street Station. Another great passenger amenity that actually wound up making the system more vulnerable, as it allowed for water to flood not just South Ferry, but flood across through to Whitehall and down into the Montague Tube. So the record storm, as we know, hit the city on October 29th. I'm not going to belabor the storm too much, except for the fact that we had done an extraordinary job preparing for the storm. It overwhelmed those preparations, and at the same time, it clearly overwhelmed the design parameters for which the South Ferry Station was designed. We are now elevating our design requirements to resist a storm that brings a surge that is accompanying a Category 2 storm plus 3 foot extra. As you can see in the third photo here is that the station was flooded with over 14 million gallons of brackish, salt, highly contaminated, fouled water. It took close to a week to pump out the station from all the water and remove some of the larger components of debris from the station. What makes the station vulnerable is the fact that this is a key plan that tries to show the relativeness of the Whitehall Street Station. You can see off on the slide the 2 light green entrances, station entrances S1 and S2, that connect over to the entrance 1 of the new South Ferry Station. The new South Ferry has 3 entrances, entrance 1, 2, and 3. And then, of course, a little bit further up on the slide, you get to see the Bowling Green, trying to show the relative nature of 3 major transit components of the overall transit network. If we move to the next slide. South Ferry was designed for 3 modern entrances, 3 modern high-volume entrances, essentially to allow for the surge traffic of the arrival of the Staten Island Ferry. South Ferry, these entrances on their own provided a large volume conduit or aqueduct into the station when water flooded. So as much as we needed the wide entrances in order to accommodate the passenger flow, it wound up being a weak point for the system because it allowed a large volume of water to quickly flood the system. Damages aren't necessarily immediately obvious. You start to clean out the station, you see that the porcelain wall panels look like they're okay. It's after you take a few of them down that you realize the damage the moisture has done to the mounting brackets that hold these components up. We can't have those brackets fail and allow the wall panels to fall onto the tracks. More insidious, though, is the damage to electrical and mechanical components, as illustrated by the photo on the lower right-hand corner. Corrosion of cable, any connection point, any terminal board, any splice point, basically puts the system at risk of a failure, and it is something that needs to be remedied. So we embraced the project starting in March of 2013 for a full rehabilitation of the existing South Ferry station. This basically means that the station will be gutted down to the concrete, and we'll be putting in all new systems, all new finishes, all new lighting, all new mechanical network, all new signal systems, etc. We also will be including necessary track and signal work, which is unusual for a station rehabilitation. Along with that station rehabilitation work, we will be performing leak mitigation work. This being basically sitting in reclaimed water, landfill, parts of it in landfill, is a station that's highly vulnerable to water infiltration. Even when it opened, it had a good bit of cracks that allowed for leakage into the station. These cracks were exacerbated by the flooding, the weight of the water caused by Sandy. So we'll be going in there with a very aggressive program to seal off these leaks. We will be embracing both near-term and long-term flood mitigation as we move forward, and we are, to make this station fully resilient, we are looking at the feasibility of relocating the most vulnerable component of the station, the signal relay room, to a point above grades, to a point where it does not flood. To get there, we're breaking down this project down into construction packages. We have a near-term mitigation package, which was awarded in September of 2013. That package is closing 2 of the entrances that are not necessary currently. As everybody knows, the South Ferry Station has been closed since the storm. So we had entrance 2 and 3 that provided a vulnerable access point for water should we ever have a storm like that again. So we're closing them down on a temporary basis until this project can come along and reopen these entrances such that they're capable of withstanding a Category 2 hurricane flood.
You're talking about closing down entrances to the old South Ferry Station or the new one?
No, we're closing down the entrances to the new South Ferry.
Well, nobody's using it, so it shouldn't affect anybody.
That's correct. It doesn't affect anybody. It's just that there's concern over that.
But they're flooding points, so that's why they're closing them down.
Right. We're also doing other mitigation as part of that early near-term mitigation. We are going to be advertising an early demolition package, which is what I started to talk about before, where we're going to be removing all unnecessary components within the station, essentially preparing the station for the larger contract work. The station complex work, the overall package, the large package, will be advertised in February with a planned May-June award. We are going to continue to study an elevated signal room, and we are looking at our current contract packaging to see what projects, if any, can be broken out for small business mentoring. One of the problems with this location is that there is very little access. Any construction access that you need requires park permit and approval, and we're going to have a problem with multiple contractors in this area. We also are procuring a consulting construction management firm to manage the project on behalf of Transit. The South Ferry Station, as you look at it, let's see if I can show the pointer here. It bleeds out. But entrance 1, 2, and 3 are on the top along State Street. As you So we'll be hardening those entrances such that in the event of a storm, we'll be able to come along and basically close a door flap, if I can say it that way. I'm going to say it simply, and close and seal off those entrances. The rest of the entrance itself will be designed for a Category 2 storm, so everything will be completely sealed off at street level. As you move down the station, we're doing second-tier hardening. We're hardening, like as an example, the connection point between South Ferry and Whitehall. Doesn't really quite show up here, but so where that connection is, we'll be putting in a barrier to prevent water from surging across and through from one station or to the other. We will then be taking the hardening and we'll be bringing it down to platform level. We will be expanding the capacity of the existing pump room at the left-hand side at the bottom of the drawing there. We'll be expanding the capacity of the pump room. We'll be basically doubling the capacity. We'll be hardening the rooms along the platform. And then finally, as you get on the lower right-hand corner, you get to the signal relay room. That's basically our largest challenge now as we move forward. The signal relay room is the most vulnerable room in the station complex, and yet it's at the only really good location within the station that it can be. It houses all the critical signal systems. As I said, it's at the lowest level of the station. It was completely submerged during Sandy. It has many different wall penetrations. This is a room that's 20 feet wide by 110 feet long. So it has numerous conduit penetrations, numerous mechanical louvers, numerous doors, etc., numerous vents. And it also is vulnerable to water infiltration from the IRT 4 and 5 line above. So our approach currently is to harden, is to take it in a two-step approach. The first step would be to harden the room in its current location. We're going to fix, we're going to take advantage of the term fix and fortify. We're going to strengthen the concrete wall to be able to withstand the hydrostatic pressure that will be under should it flood again at that location. We'll be waterproofing the roof, and we'll be installing submarine-type doors to close off in the event of another storm like Sandy. We'll be having deployable covers for all penetrations such that the room will be made as watertight as is possible in its current location. On a parallel path, we're going to be looking at every option to bring the room above grade. There are requirements to that. It's not as easy as just putting it above grade and finding a spot. It has to be within 500 feet of the crossover. That's the track switch that allows you to move from track to track. That 500-foot rule is there for maintenance and reliability reasons. So it creates quite a challenge. But from the next slide, you can see that the existing relay room is vulnerable to even a small amount of water. The point of this slide is to show that if you get a little bit of water on the floor, that may be okay, but as it starts to rise up, it starts to get into the relays that terminate in the racks that you see in these photos. So we don't have any real true resiliency in this complex unless we get this room above grade. So as I said, this is just a plan view of the relay room where it currently is, hardening every aspect of this room to the point that we can, as well as hardening the entry points to the station at street level. But the IRT above, the next slide, highlights for us the vulnerability of the location. Essentially, we have a 100-plus-year-old track configuration above us, structure configuration above us, that has its own issues, but it can leak from structure to structure, and it basically leaks into the relay room. So we're going to be trying to build a roof within the room, but even there we have very little headroom to deal with. So it's a real challenge. And as you can see in this photo, in this slide, water on either side of the relay room, if the tracks flood even to a nominal height, can enter this room and cause substantial issues. The signals themselves are the long recovery item with this project, bar none. We were asked as we were putting this presentation together about other locations. We did look within the station just for full disclosure here, and essentially it looked like we were just switching one problem for another while still not really achieving full resiliency. Above grade, we have a problem, and that is we would have to go into the park. So we've looked at all locations within the park, and there are no good locations in Battery Park for us. The only good thing about the arrangement is that where we are is along the perimeter of the park. Actually, we're along the sidewalk, And that sidewalk there does not belong to DOT, it belongs to Parks. So we've put together some what are referred to as massing diagrams, the next slide, which show the types of configurations we could build for a room above grade. This is not necessarily a design at all. This is just intended to show that we would be a willing partner with any outreach on a design that would allow for a room to be built above grade. But with the property being Parks property, we know that we're in for a long process. Even if we get everybody to buy into putting this room above grade, the alienation process to take that parkland, even with all parties agreeing, would be quite substantial. So we've reached a point of decision and essentially the direction that we have moving forward. We're moving forward with the first option, hardening the room in its existing location. That is the path that takes us to a completed project the quickest. We will be, with that, taking that direction, finishing the project by the end of 2016. So we're in a 24 to 30 month duration. If we were to wait for a room above grade, we would have to wait for the process to play out. Could be involved, could be challenged legally, could be challenged numerous times legally, and we might not get approval, in which case we would be waiting in vain. But even if successful, we feel it would add 1 to 3 years to the project duration. So if we were to wait for that, at best, we feel we would be at the end of 2017 to as late as 2019. And we don't think we can wait for that, which brings us to the course of action that we are on, which is to harden the room in its current location. We will purchase 100% spare signal components in order to be able to recover should we ever have any form of flooding event again. And we will begin on a parallel path to seek out a room above grade to the maximum extent possible. And we'll take that as a fallback facility until such time as it's approved and built, in which time it would become the permanent facility for the relay room. And at that point, we would have a fully resilient South Ferry Station. The one comment I did not make as we went through the presentation here today is that at this point in time, we are well within the allocated budget for this project. I'm not really here to talk about what the total dollars are yet because we're just finishing the design and we're just getting the final estimates done, but we expect to be able to deliver this project well within the allocation that's in our Sandy funding. Thank you very much.
I think the group has done an excellent job at trying to deal with a very difficult situation. And while this may be a one-off that we may not face other places, there may be derivatives of this that we will face. Ideally, we would like to be able to take actions that were permanent and one-time expenses. This is a case where we may need to do something different. And as we get to some of the more challenging assets that we need to harden, especially under the resiliency side, you may see more of these. But the process they went through, I think, was good. And we make sure that we communicate this very clearly to the FTA because they want to make sure we're spending our resiliency dollars and our recovery dollars wisely. Any questions or comments? Stations Division?
Since our last meeting, we made very good progress all front of moving the program forward. We completed design of 2 ADA projects. These are the key stations, Ozone Park and 23rd Street. And by Christmas, we're going to be awarding 5 major projects with a total bid cost of $68.9 million. That includes the work on the Broadway line. While Montague Tunnel is out, we have advanced this work at the 5 stations. We also have awarded 5 stations on a Liberty Avenue line, and elevator and escalator also projects were awarded. In terms of construction, also we made very good progress. Central Avenue stations on Myrtle Avenue line was reopened on time. And earlier the year, we have completed Knickerbocker. So the overall, that work on that line is going very well. The Whitehall station escalator was in service. And this week, we are putting in service Bowery station. And finally, we also completed the work, ADA work at the Dykeman, along with 5 other component work at 5 other stations. Dykeman, everybody knows, was a big challenge for us, but I think we put it in service now. In terms of the component work, the 3 stations on the northbound side, we put it in service ahead of the schedule. At 149 Grand Concourse station, this work was completed by our in-house force, and it turned out to be very good. In fact, New York One has a very good article about this project. Also, the 5 station on Broadway, I talked about it. Now, this is our capital program, overall capital program for stations. Total work included at 187 stations with the 4 major categories. You can see the major effort is a component work.
And I put in a real plug for the component station program. The Transit Riders Council had done many years ago an expose of some stations, and 149th Street Grand Concourse was really decrepit, and it is so much better now. The rubbing boards are firm, the platform edges are nice, there's no dripping paint. I mean, it's just so much better for the morale to be in that station. And it, as you see, it did not have to wait for a major renovation to do these things. So, good job.
Thank you. All right, so again, this is the overall capital program. Let's look at the progress under each category, starting with the component project. As you can see again, work at 126 stations included in the current program. Under this category, we address defects which are rated 4 or greater at the various stations. Also, typically a dollar amount, like Andrew saying, is very small for work under this category. So we always look a piggyback opportunity. Point in a case, the work on the Broadway line, we're going to piggyback all the Montague Tunnel geos. So far, we have completed work at 38 stations. 32 is in construction, and the rest of them are in design. And if everything goes well, we expect to complete design and award all the remaining work by end of next year. Overall, work under this component category is within the budget and on time. As you can see, the traffic lights are all green. The second category is the renewal category. Work included at 38 different stations. Under this category, we address defects which are rated 3 or greater. Typically, work under this category require bypassing of the stations or closing of a station for a while, which we work with the community and we come up with the plan. As you can see, the Hunters Point Avenue work is completed. On Motley Avenue line, Central Avenue station was completed on time, and Knickerbocker completed earlier. Work at the remaining 3 stations going well and expected to be completed early next year. On Pelham line, that's the number 6. Currently, we have shut down Castle Hill and Middletown Road stations for construction work. It was, I think, a major issue to agree on the schedule of the closure of this thing. So our government relation office and local community, we all agreed with the closure plan, and we are in construction, and it's very good, going good. Liberty Avenue is recently awarded, and Sea Beach line is in design, and is 70% complete. Also, the Culver line is in design, and Culver line and the New Lords line are in the design, and they are in 40% and 15% complete. Again, overall, work under this category is also within the budget and on time. You can see all the green traffic lights. The third category is the ADA work, and MTA's goal is to complete 100 key stations, work at 100 key stations by 2020. So work under this category also require some geos, not major geos, but however, we need a lot of temporary enclosures, or the barricades, we call it, on a platform and other public areas. The work at the first 4 stations in this table is in progress, and as I said earlier, Dykeman is all done. 23rd Street station, we recently opened the bids, and it was very, very competitive bids, and bids are below our estimate, and we are in a process of awarding that project. 6th Ozone Park stations, okay, I missed that, 23rd. Ozone Park stations design is completed, and we're going to newspaper very shortly with that project. 68th Street Hunter College, one of the issue we have it is the locating the new entrance, and we are working with the Government Relations Office and MTA Real Estate and community to agree on location of this new entrance, which is the vital for this this station work. 57 and 7 design is going good. Only issue there is a very busy Manhattan location, so we are working with the DOT to agree on a lane closure. At least cost-wise, all this work we are within the budget. However, we ran into problem with the schedule of at least 4 projects. I'm happy to report that we have resolved all the issues at these 4 locations, and work is well underway. So by 2020, by today, we have completed 80 location, ADA key stations locations. 5 are in a construction, 6 stations locations are in a design. So we are doing very good to complete or meet our goal, completing 100 key stations by 2020. The last category is elevator escalators. Under this work, we also require geos and a lot of temporary barricades along the platforms, basically, every time we do the elevator or escalator. On the current program, we are replacing 5 escalators and 21 elevators at 14 different stations. Again, the Whitehall stations in service, and Bowery is scheduled to complete it this week. Overall, work under this category also within the budget and on the time. Now let's look, these are the few highlights of the recently completed project. I have a before and after pictures of each location, starting with the 149th Street Grand Concourse. This is the work ethic. Again, the work was completed by our local, in-house forces. This is a work at the lower level. The platform edges were improved, and all the topping on the platform were redone. Thank you. I'm sorry. This work again is at the upper level of the stations. A lot of work done at the stations. This is the basically Broadway 7th line. This is the component work at the 207th Street. This is the typical picture I have shown. 4 other stations we have a similar work, and they were all complete. Work was completed in October of this year, and everybody's very happy with that. Now this is the renewal work at the Central Avenue station on Myrtle. Again, you see the brand new control house. On the left was the old one, and right side is a brand new one. We also redid the entire control area. It has a very bad water condition at these stations, but now it's much improved, brand new canopy and everything there. Also, we did the windscreen on the platform, and we rehabbed the stairs at the stations. The next one is a Dykeman. Like again, I said, this was a very, very challenging project for all of us. However, we are done with that. The ADA elevator was placed in service recently, you can see that. And then front entrance of the stations was pretty much, we redid that. We had a lot of issues with the sidewalk was uneven, and we had to bring all the ADA customers. So we have to regrade the entire sidewalk, and we have to build the ADA ramp for our customers. This is again a photo of a new platform and platform edges at the Dykeman on the right-hand side. Also, you can see the elevator on the top of the roof. Okay, thank you very much.
I think you'll see from this presentation, maybe you've seen from others as well, when we deviated from the traditional way of going after stations on a station-by-station basis, It was just taking us so long to get to 468 stations. This is going to be, a lot better, and the quality of the work is really pretty good. And I agree with you, some of the pictures don't do it justice. Any questions, comments from the board members? Capital program status report, Greg?
Okay. On commitments, through November, the MTA planned 59 major commitments. 27 have been or are forecast to be delivered on time, while 24 others are late. 8 commitments previously reported as late have now been made. Agencies have committed $4.5 billion in forecasts by the end of the year. They will commit 97% of the overall 2013 plan. The strong performance is driven by the inclusion of Sandy commitments, such as New York City Transit's Montague and Greenpoint under River 2 contracts, which together represent nearly $300 million. Altogether, agencies have so far made $629 million in Sandy commitments. Completions through November, the MTA planned 37 major completions. 25 have been or are forecast to be delivered on or near the goal, while 10 others are forecast to be late. 2 previously reported as late have now been completed. Dollar-wise, agencies have completed over $3 billion and currently forecasts by the end of the year they will achieve 75% of the overall 2013 completion plan. I refer you to tab 4 for the traffic light report, and I won't go through it in detail. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Completes the agenda. I think motion to adjourn. Second. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much for an exceptionally long day, especially all of you that stayed for the whole time. So.